Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very special edition of Calls. This is the 2025 Ryder Cup Captain's Roster Show. I am going to put myself in Keegan Bradley and Luke Donald's shoes. I'll give you the pairings that I would put together if I was captaining each team for the Ryder Cup. Of course, we'll have predictions, all that. It's going to be a very fun show, pretty laid back. So I would love to hear from you all. Jump into chat, have some fun with it tonight. I'm running quite a bit behind. I literally just got home, so let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. All statistics are provided by FantasyNational.com. It's the best golf analytic tool out there. Make sure you go check out FantasyNational.com. You won't regret it. In the description is a link to all of the social media, my X and Instagram, Gabe's social media handle, which has the detailed write-ups for our Fun Picks Challenge. We did 10 different categories for the Ryder Cup this week. So if you want to see our detailed write-ups and our selections, go follow him over on social media. I will have a little bit of our selections at the end of the show, but not all of them. So make sure you're going following him. And then lastly, for this very, very brief intro, we are live. Again, chat's open. I want to hear from you all. Give me your all's pick to win. I've got a poll question typed up. I would love to hear from the community in that regard. Who is your top point scorer? How do you think the course is going to play? Anything and everything Ryder Cup. Would love to hear from you all. Give me your top standout pairing, all of that. Would love to hear from you all again. I just want this to be very fun, very laid back. Take some jabs at me. It's going to be rightfully earned when you see some of the pairings that I've put together, which reminds me, as a quick note, I made the pairings for my rosters, if you will, last night. So I do not have any, or I did not have any information regarding who was going to be playing together. I know the morning foursomes, tomorrow's pairings have been out for a while now. I did not have any of that information, but I was able to, make some logical guesses. So please don't tell me I'm an idiot that I have the pairings wrong. This is the pairings that I would put together if I were the captains for each squad. With that, I think we're going to go ahead and start the captain's roster show. And normally we would do some, mixed condition model information and all that. I'm not playing any DFS this week. I am just going to be a pure fan in regards to the Ryder Cup. Let me center my camera very quickly. So in addition to the poll question, so let's go ahead and post the poll question. Very, very simple this week. Who wins the Ryder Cup? Is it Europe? Is it the U.S.? Or do we have a tie at Bethpage this week? So feel free to jump into chat with your answer. Fill out the poll question. Would very, very much appreciate that. The information here that I have put together, again, these are my rosters or my pairings that I would put together if I were in the captain's shoes. Some of these are going to match what happens. Some of these aren't. Let's just have some fun. I did have 4 rules for myself. So before I reveal who my pairings are, I did enforce 4 rules on myself. The first being no player would play all 5 sessions. Is that going to happen? Of course not. You would expect Scotty to play all 5. You would expect Rory to play all 5. I just did this to have some fun, to make it challenging on myself, to come up with different combinations and whatnot, give players a session off for rest, etc. Again, it's not ideal. I just kind of enforced that rule to have some fun. Rule number 2, I'm going to do no repeat pairings. That means Xander and Cantlay are only together once. That means, Rory and Tommy Fleetwood are only together once. Things of that nature. Again, I wanted to have some fun, put different groups together throughout the session, would just kind of make it interesting, I thought. So I didn't want to do any repeat pairings. Rule 3, every player plays at least one session each day, meaning by the end of my Friday afternoon 4-ball, every single player will have played by the end of the day, all 24. Again, that was just a rule that I put in on myself. It didn't really affect the Europeans all that much. It did kind of throw off the American teams, and you'll see that as we go through it. But that was rule 3. I wanted to make sure every player played every day, even if it was just one session. And then rule number 4, the final rule, players will play at least one session of each format, meaning foursomes or 4-ball, unless statistical data dictates otherwise. And I'll give you some examples of that as we go through it. But just keep in mind that I had these 4 rules. Obviously, this is not going to be what the captains do. This is not going to be probably even efficient or what's best. I just wanted to have a fun thought exercise if I were in the captain's shoes with some mandates. So let's go ahead and start. The first pairing, if I am Luke Donald, I know that the crowd is going to be raucous. The crowd is going to be extremely into it. I'm going to put one of my strongest pairings out there. I want to match the Americans' energy. I want to set the tone. And what better group to do that than the combination of Ludwig Aubert and Victor Hovland, who was great in Rome. Hey, good evening, Gabe. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Apologies that I am getting this show started very, very late, but I really appreciate you jumping in the chat. As I was mentioning, all 4 rules here. So, just a kind of a fun thought exercise that I wanted to go through. Did I put down any wagers this week? I thought about doing a top debutante, but I ended up just being a fan this week. I'm not going to do any DFS, not doing any wagers. I'm just going to be a pure golf fan, enjoy the Ryder Cup with no monetary stress behind it. If you decided to play DFS, hopefully you have some success, and keep me informed on how you do. Would very much appreciate it. And then, of course, your handle is in the description of the video, but if you want to put that into chat for people to easily access, by all means feel free to do so, because Gabe's social media page is where we put our detailed write-ups for our pick selection, which will come at the end of the show. But as I was alluding to, I know if I'm Luke Donald, I'm thinking that the crowd's going to be raucous, the crowd's going to be really, really into it. I'm going to want a pairing that's going to match that energy, that's going to match or be able to handle the heckling, put a strong foot forward, try to get that first blue point on the board. The same way, not putting anything at risk other than a little national pride. Yeah. I was so bad at the 2021 Ryder Cup. I enjoyed the format of it, trying to pick a captain and all that. I was so bad that I'll just be a fan this week. And then for the Americans, if I'm Keegan Bradley, it's pretty simple. I've got the best player in the world. I'm going to send him out first and tell the Europeans to beat him. Just beat him if you can. And I actually picked this pairing correctly. Again, full disclosure, I made this entire sheet last night, so I did not have any information on who was going to be paired with who when I made this, as clearly I would have put Scheffler and Henley out first. I just want to make that very, very clear before someone accuses me of cherry picking or whatever. But this duo, Russell Henley and Scottie Scheffler, went 2-1 at the President's Cup last year. So they've played together. They played pretty darn well. Their one loss, they lost on the 18th hole. I believe it was to Ben On and Siwoo Kim, I think. Could be wrong with that, but I feel like that was the pairing that they lost to. They played pretty well in the President's Cup. They're comfortable with each other. And like I said, I'm going to send out Scotty first. I'm going to set the tone. I've got the number one player in the world coming off a win at the Procore a couple weeks ago. All right, Luke, beat him. Beat him. I dare you. So that was my mindset of sending this team out for the Americans first. Following that, knowing that the crowd is going to be very, very into it, still rowdy. I am going to follow up. If I'm Keegan Bradley, I'm going to send the local product out. I'm going to keep the crowd into it. I'm going to put Cam Young out there. Let him get his feet wet at a course he's probably pretty familiar with, having been born, 30 minutes north of New York City. This is about 30 to 45 minutes east of New York City, in the middle of Long Island. I'm just going to put the hometown product out there, keep the crowd into it, and I have partnered him with Sam Burns. And this is going to be probably my most controversial pairing, as both of these guys can hit the ball a long way, but they can also hit it into different zip codes. The reason I wanted to put Sam Burns with Cam Young, I'm going to bring us to Fantasy National. And let's look at proximity. We know that Bethpage is a big yard, and long iron proficiency is going to be pretty important. This is the PGA Tour players. Let's put it on the Ryder Cup field. When we sort on, let's say, 200 plus proximity, actually, no, we'll go on total procs. You see Cameron Young down here in terms of proximity. Not great. Not great. But he's got a couple of ranges where he seems to be at his best. That is the 100 to 150. Now, he might not get a lot of these approach shots, but you got to understand, he's playing his own ball doing this throughout the year. So you want to try to pair Cameron Young with somebody who is, relatively close to him in distance. Who are those players? Well, you've got Xander up here. You've got Bryson. But right under him in distance, at least in this Ryder Cup field, is Sam Burns. So Cameron Young is going to be very, very comfortable with the amount of length of approach shot that Sam Burns is probably going to leave him the majority of the time. And Sam Burns has actually been somewhat accurate, at least recently. So that was a lot of the mindset behind putting these two together, particularly Cam Young and his struggles with any proximity other than, shorter wedges, which Bethpage has a couple of shorter par fours. Again, this is kind of my, I would say probably one of my more controversial pairings. But I'm going to put Sam Burns and Cam Young, Burns being the number one putter in an alternate shot format. Cam Young, who can get hot with the putter, is very comfortable on Benton Poa. I wanted to keep the energy high. I'm sending out the local product second and partnering him with Sam Burns. For the Europeans, if I'm Luke Donald, again, much like I was thinking about in the first pairing, I want somebody to match the energy. I want to try to get, put a strong foot forward, keep the, get that first blue point on the board. I'm going to keep my foot on the gas. I do not want to give the Americans any breathing room. Once again, I did nail this pairing, even though I don't think they're playing second. Maybe they are playing second. I don't know. Maybe they're playing first. I don't know. I'm not sure. But Hatton and Rahm are together. I've put them out second, wanting to keep the pedal pushed to the floor. So that was the thinking for me if I'm Luke Donald, putting this group out second. Getting late for me. Have a great show. Check out the rest of the morning. Thanks for jumping in chat, Gabe. Much appreciated. I had a lot of fun doing the Ryder Cup write-up. I know you hadn't planned on doing much this fall, but hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll see come Sunday who kind of, quote-unquote wins our little exhibition here, our first time together doing in an international event. But thanks again for jumping in chat, Gabe. Very, very much appreciated. And good luck this week. So now that the hey, good evening, Matt. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Good to see you this evening. First time I believe you're able to catch the show. Got to go with the USA. That might be where the rooting interest is. We'll see throughout the show, where at least statistically and analytically where I fall. But it's good to see you. Hopefully you've had a good week. Much appreciated for you jumping into chat. We're going to have a little bit of fun this evening, just talking about how if I was the captain of each of these squads, how I would have put the teams together. And I did use, these rules over here. So keep that in mind as we move forward this evening. But good to see you in chat. with my two very, very strong pairings put up for Captain Luke Donald. The third pairing, I kind of went against the grain. I wanted to get the rookie a little bit of exposure. And I paired him with Justin Rose. Rose, the veteran, knows Ryder Cups in and out. He's been in at least 6 Ryder Cups. Rose is that calming presence, much like he was for Bobby Mack last year, 2 years ago in Rome. I put Rose and Højgaard together, wanting to get the rookie his feet wet in the Ryder Cup. Wanted to try to instill some confidence in him, making sure he knows he belongs here, even though he is the only debutant for the Europeans. And then for the Americans, if I'm Keegan Bradley, a little bit of the same thought process. Ben Griffin has been one of the best golfers this year, bar none. He's a career year. He's been great. He's picked up some distance with the driver. I don't think Bethpage is going to be too big for him. And I am putting him with an elite iron player in Colin Morikawa. This just kind of happened to be where I settled in terms of making sure I had no repeat pairings. I'm not as sold on this pairing if I'm Keegan Bradley. Again, I'm just kind of trying to get Ben Griffin out there, knowing how well he has played lately, finishing second at the Pro Tour, has been great all year long, giving Morikawa a chance in probably what is his best format with the alternate shot, considering his elite irons. So a little bit of a quote-unquote break for the third pairing in foursomes. And then to round out the morning session, and this is kind of my thought process throughout all of these sessions, no matter what it is, I want my fourth pairing to be my anchor. If things haven't gone my way, if I'm Captain Luke Donald and I'm down 2-1, heaven forbid, 3-0, maybe 2.5 to a half. I want my strongest, my most confident pairing as my anchor to give myself momentum going into the next session and to be kind of like that stopper if things go bad. With that in mind, it's going to be no surprise that I nailed both of these pairings, even though they're not playing against each other tomorrow. For the Europeans, I'm putting Rory and Tommy Fleetwood out there as my anchor team in foursomes. Rory probably going to play all 5 sessions. Again, I didn't put him in all 5. I didn't put anybody in all 5. I just kind of imposed that rule on myself. But these two were stellar in Rome, played very well together. Going to keep that momentum. And for the Americans, it's peanut butter and jelly. It's lamb and tuna fish, if you get the reference. It's Cantlay and Schauffele. These two have played together all their lives, very comfortable with each other, have played very well together. We're going to go with Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele as the anchor for the Americans. So that is how things lined up for me in the morning or Friday morning foursomes format. Moving down to 4-ball, Friday afternoon 4-ball. Let's say I'm Luke Donald. I'm hoping that the morning session went well. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I know that the Americans are going to, again, with the kind of reset that happens in between sessions, the Americans are going to come out and try to punch us in the mouth. They're going to put down a very, very strong team and a very, very emotional team to get the crowd into it. I want to send a group out there that's going to be able to handle that. I'm going to put Ludwig out there with Sepp Straka. Now, I know Sepp Straka played with Shane Lowry last year in foursomes. If I say last year, I meant 2023 in Rome. But I'm going to put Straka in 4-ball if I'm Luke Donald. And the reason being is that I have some concerns with Sepp, particularly in the alternate shot format with his around the green play. It is bad. It is really, really bad. And I'm really, really concerned if his partner has to rely on him to get around, to be good around the green. He has been really bad. He hasn't gained strokes around the green since the Players in March. Of course, we don't see, the statistics from the Scottish or the Open. Those are proprietary. But in any measured event, he has not gained strokes around the green. That really concerns me in the alternate shot format. So that's why I'm putting Sepp Straka in the 4-ball event. And this is what the, this qualifier, this parentheses in Rule 4 means. Players play at least one session of each format unless statistical data dictates otherwise. Sepp Straka is one of those examples. I would be quite concerned to put him in foursomes. So I'm going to put him with Ludwig Aubert, a standout from the 2023 Ryder Cup, where Ludwig Aubert, even though he partnered with Hovland, 4-3 thrashing of Harman and Homa, 9-7 thrashing of Brooks and Scotty. Now, Aubert partnered with Hovland and lost in 4-ball, which is, what he's paired with Sepp Straka. I just think Ludwig has the mental toughness, a road Ryder Cup, to handle the raucous crowd that the Americans are gonna have. I'm putting him in with Sepp Straka, and just like I was talking about, if I'm thinking of Luke Donald, if I'm Keegan, I want a strong team. I want an emotional team. I want a team that's going to fire the crowd up. I'm putting Big Bryson out there. Again, I have a little bit of concerns with Bryson in alternate shot. Not that he's bad around the green or anything. He's pretty darn good. He just plays such a unique style of golf. I don't know if that would fit well in a foursomes format. And we can see that in his performance in foursomes. He's 0-2. Now, he was paired with Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods in 2018 when Mollywood happened. So I can forgive him a little bit. It was his first Ryder Cup. But the statistics still say he's 0-2 in the alternate shot format. So I'm going to keep Bryson in what I think is his best format, 4-ball. I'm going to keep him with who I think is the emotional leader of the Americans in Justin Thomas. Get the crowd fired up, ready to go. Get us off to a strong start in the afternoon 4-ball session. Moving to the second pairing in Friday 4-ball, much like what I was thinking in the afternoon, or excuse me, in the morning foursomes, I'm going to send the local guy out there. I'm going to send Cam Young out there. I want the crowd to feed into him. I want him to feed off that crowd. I want him to use that, get the crowd fired up. And I'm going to partner him with Russell Henley. Henley is the least in terms of distance, driving distance in the Ryder Cup field. So that's why I'm having a little bit of issue playing him in foursomes. That said, he can play his own game in 4-ball. Let Cam Young be the aggressor. Let him be attacking. And Henley can play his game, play a little bit more conservative. Let his iron shine in this regard. For the Europeans, Matt Fitzpatrick is, like Sepp Straka, somebody that I am keeping only in 4-ball. 1-1 in 4-ball. But you see his record in foursomes, which is the alternate shot. You see his record in singles. Fitzpatrick has really, really struggled in Ryder Cups. 0-3 in foursomes, 0-3 in singles. He's kind of relegated to the 4-ball format. Having said that, Luke Donald has put him in the Friday morning foursomes, so what do I know? But if I were Luke Donald, I would keep Matt Fitzpatrick in 4-ball. I'll pair him with Tyrrell Hatton, renowned gritty player, will get plenty of pars, plays well when it's difficult. Let Fitzpatrick be the aggressor of the two. Tyrrell Hatton can make plenty of birdies as it is. I liked this pairing for the European side, pairing Fitzpatrick with Hatton. Moving to the third pairing in Friday afternoon 4-ball, if I were the captain of each squad. Lowry has not been very good at Ryder Cups. I am a little bit concerned with his game. If I were Luke Donald, I'm going to put Shane Lowry with his buddy Rory in Friday afternoon 4-ball. They've played plenty of team events together, most notably the Zurich, which is a PGA team event that uses a similar format with the exception of singles. They just alternate shot and 4-ball. But I'm going to put Lowry with his buddy Rory. Want to make sure I'm getting Rory out there early and often, trying to get as many blue points on the board. And I'm going to combine, or I'm going to put them up against, if I were Keegan, Harris English and Morikawa. Now, I ended up nailing this pairing, but this group is playing foursomes tomorrow morning. I have them in 4-ball. I do worry about Morikawa's putter. English is as steady as they come. English is not going to take himself out of a hole. He will par you to death in these team formats. But Harris English doesn't have a natural partner. English at Whistling Straits partnered with Tony Finau. Finau's not here. So I wanted somebody to partner with English that technically could go nuclear. Even though Morikawa's putter is shaky, Morikawa can go nuclear just with the irons. And considering that these two don't have to alternate shots, they can play their own ball, I felt pretty comfortable with this pairing. Maybe not the strongest pairing, but comfortable with it. I like it, more than, say, Griffin and Morikawa from the foursomes. But again, I am trying to differentiate as much as possible throughout the event with this no repeat pairings mandate that I put on myself. So English and Morikawa, I did end up nailing this pairing, but they're playing foursomes tomorrow morning. So that would be group 3 or match 3 in Friday afternoon 4-ball. And then to anchor each side for Friday afternoon 4-ball, I'm going to go right back to the well if I'm Captain Luke Donald. Justin Rose and Bobby Mack played very, very well in 2023 together. I'm going to keep that momentum going. Yes, it's probably a little bit hard on Rose at his age to play twice in a day. But like I said, I was going to put a veteran with Højgaard, and I just chose Rose in that regard. Because believe it or not, Rose has been superb in foursomes, 7, 2, and 1. Now, Bobby Mack and Justin Rose went 1-0-1, a win and a draw in 4-ball in 2023. Hey, good evening, Phil. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Hopefully you're ready for the Ryder Cup. We're going to have a fun show here. Feel free to put your answer with the poll question. I'm going through this as if I were the captain for each team. I know these are not the pairings that are out. I made these pairings last night. Just full disclosure. And keep in mind, I put a few mandates on myself in terms of how I put teams together. So, feel free to jump in and chat with your pairings, how you would organize things. I'm just going through this as a fun little thought exercise if I were the captain of each team. It's good to see you in chat this evening. Do we have to pick one person who has no match tomorrow in DK? Do we have to pick one person who has that doesn't play tomorrow? My guess it would be an American of some kind, and that's why I put this rule 3 in for me. Every player plays at least one session each day, meaning nobody has the entire day off. My guess for the most likely to not play tomorrow would be one of the American debutantes. Probably Spawn or Griffin would be my guess. Because it makes me pick multiple of the same team if I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't feel great about it. I do have some confidence that Luke Donald will run Rasmus Højgaard out there, especially if the Europeans get off to a strong start. Because he did that in 2023 with Nikolai. Like, Nikolai didn't play in the foursomes in Rome, and then he's paired with John Rahm, and they tied Brooks and Scotty in the Friday 4-ball. Nikolai doesn't play again in the Saturday foursomes, and then Tommy Fleetwood paired with Nikolai in 4-ball in Rome. So I do think Luke Donald will put Rasmus Højgaard out there in Friday afternoon 4-ball. I do. So my best guess, Phil, would be one of the debutantes from America. I would say Griffin or Spawn would be most likely. But I didn't do any DFS this week. I also didn't make any wagers. I'm just going to be a pure fan and enjoy the Ryder Cup. So hopefully that helps you out. Sorry that I can't give you a definitive answer. I mean, you have some kind of idea now that the full Friday foursomes matchups are out. So you can make probably an educated guess with that. But to finalize what I would do for the Friday afternoon four ball, if I'm Luke Donald, I'm putting out Rose and McIntyre, a team I'm very confident in. I saw how they performed in Rome. They played well. I'll have them anchor my Friday afternoon session. And again, if I'm Keegan, I'm gonna depend on Scotty. He's gonna anchor me in the Friday afternoon four ball. I put him with Spawn. Again, no repeat pairings. Every player plays at least one session each day. I don't know if this is the best pairing for JJ and Scotty. It just kind of what worked out. All I know is that I wanted Scotty to anchor my Friday afternoon four ball if I was Keegan. And so to fit all of the rules that I put in place for myself, he's matched with Spawn. So there's how, if I were the captain of each team, how Friday would look. Then going into Saturday morning, again, if I'm the captain of each team, I'm hoping things have gone well. You know, maybe it's 4-4. Maybe, you know, if I'm Keegan, maybe things have gone, you know, swimmingly well. Cantley and Schauffele are always dependable. Scheffler does Scheffler things and wins by a bunch. The crowd feeds into Cameron Young and he plays well. Maybe things are going great. But, again, Saturday really brings in this no repeat pairings rule that I put in for myself. Is 3-3 the average build for Americans versus Europe. I would tend to go more 4-2. Based on who you think's going to win the Ryder Cup. Obviously, you're going to try to fit in Scotty or Xander or probably Cantlay, maybe Morikawa. These guys that you're very, very confident are going to play 4 or 5 sessions, at least from the American side. From the European side, you're going to, you know, the most likely guys that are going to play 4 to 5. Obviously, Rory, Tommy, Hatton, and Rahm. These two are probably going to be paired together, both alternate shots. You would expect Rahm to play at least one 4-ball session. Ober and Hovland are probably going to play 4 to 5 sessions. So you want to make sure you have the guys that are going to play 4 to 5 sessions. And honestly, I don't think it's too terribly wrong to look at the matchups tomorrow and try to sneak a point that way. Like Rory and Tommy are heavy favorites against English and Morikawa. Like depending on what kind of build you're doing, you might want to try to squeeze in Tommy or Rory into your lineup. I would tend to go more 4-2 in my lineup process, Phil, based on who I think is going to win. But that's just me. I did this I played DFS in 2021 for the Ryder Cup and did horrible. It was bad. It was really bad. So again, I'm just going to be a fan and not risk any monetary stress this week. That's the best answer I can give for you. And I will admit that I am no expert in terms of what's best in like 3-3, 4-2, 6-0, anything like that. Because depending on who your captain is, you're going to have to go down to the well quite a bit. So, coming back to, building these rosters, building the captaincies. If I were in Luke Donald's and Keegan Bradley's shoes, we're going to start with Saturday morning foursomes. hopefully things have gone well. And again, I can't stress enough, remember this no repeat pairings rule that I put in for myself. If I'm Captain Luke Donald, I'm going to try and put a strong foot forward, start the day off well. I'm going to put Jon Rahm and Hovland together. Two guys that, while they might not be at the top of their game, certainly have the firepower to handle Bethpage Black. Two players that are obviously well equipped to handle the raucous crowd. Now, if Rahm starts missing some putts, maybe he starts getting a little frustrated. But I do like Hovland and Rahm together, especially because Rahm is 4-0-0. He is undefeated in his career in the alternate shot format in the Ryder Cup. Clearly his better format. He hasn't been horrible at 4-ball, but 4-0-0 in alternate shot. So really wanted to make sure I had Rahm twice in the foursomes. For the Americans, I'm going to put Russell Henley out there, but I'm going to put him with Xander this time. Xander, probably the player with the most question marks on the American side, having battled injury most of this year, didn't play at the Pro Tour. What's his form going to be like? But Xander is a veteran of these Ryder Cups. I want Henley, who is a debutant, to be comfortable and paired alongside a veteran for the Americans. I put Henley with Schauffele for the Saturday morning foursomes. The second pairing for Saturday morning, I'm going to put Tommy Fleetwood back out there. I want my best players playing as often as possible. Given that no player is going to play all 5 sessions based on the rule that I put forth on myself, I'm going to put Tommy together, and I'm going to put Lowry, and I'm going to have Shane Lowry lean on Tommy Fleetwood. I'm not too terribly confident in Shane Lowry, especially if I were Luke Donald. So I'm going to put Lowry with Tommy, let him lean on Tommy. Tommy's been playing great lately. Tommy, along with Jon Rahm, also 4-0 in foursomes. 2 of those obviously being with Molinari, Mollywood in 2018. And then last year, Tommy partnered with Rory and won both of his matches in foursomes. So Tommy's very, very comfortable, very balanced player, skilled in all facets of the game. I'll have Lowry lean on Fleetwood. And then for the Americans, I'm going to put Burns and Morikawa together. These two have played together before. They were partnered together in 4-ball in Rome, but they did win. So I'm going to see if that mojo can work for the for alternate shot. Give Morikawa the confidence of the number 1 putter on the PGA Tour. Let him go firing at flags. Burns has played much better lately, even though his irons aren't the strongest suit of his game. Give Morikawa some length off the tee. I do like this pairing in terms of the concept or the idea of an alternate shot team pairing. The third match in Saturday morning foursomes, if I were captaining these squads, I'm going to put Tyrrell Hatton and Bobby Mack out there. I know Bobby Mack didn't play at all in terms of the foursomes format, but I won't be surprised, and we've seen that now that McIntyre is playing in the foursomes tomorrow morning, actually. I wouldn't be surprised to see McIntyre in foursomes. I'm going to put him with Tyrrell Hatton, 2 gritty players, 2 players that will not shy and back down from a challenge. I like that pairing a lot. And then for the Americans, if I'm Keegan, I'm going to put Cantley out there since I can't combine him with Xander because I did that Friday. I'm going to put Harris English out there. Again, a guy that is unflappable, will not let the pressure get to him. English has played well on long courses. You see, like his win at Torrey Pines earlier this year. Long course, difficult course. I do think English will be fine at Bethpage. So I put Cantley and English together. And then lastly, to anchor my foursomes pairings for Saturday, I put Ludwig Aubert and Justin Rose together. So 3 straight sessions for Justin Rose. Clearly going to earn the Saturday afternoon off. But Aubert, who played very, very well in alternate shot. Rose, 7-2-1 in alternate shot. I like that pairing. And then for the Americans, I'm going to put the emotional leader, Justin Thomas, with J.J. Spawn. Spawn has actually gained a little bit of length off the tee, which should help Justin Thomas, considering Thomas isn't the best, at long iron approaches. I liked this combination better than I did Henley and Thomas. Considering Henley is the shortest hitter in the Ryder Cup field, I was very hesitant to put Henley with Thomas, considering Thomas's, at least statistically, lack of performance on long irons. That's why I put Henley with Xander. Xander's actually been pretty good with long iron approaches. If I bring that up just very, very quickly, we'll look at proximity, last 36 rounds. Like Xander, 12th, 10th in the 175 to 200 and then 200 plus range, whereas Justin Thomas, he's kind of struggled from 200 plus, and that's why I wasn't all that thrilled with the idea of putting him with Henley, considering Henley is by far and away the shortest hitter in this field. Minus 12.5 per round. The next lowest is -4. So, I mean, lacking a lot of distance. Now, Henley will hit plenty of fairways, but the combination of lack of distance and then putting that with somebody who has struggled with, long iron approaches, I didn't like. Whereas Xander's been at least a little bit better. Spawn has been not great with long irons, but he's been, somewhat okay, I would think. And Thomas hits it further than Henley. I just felt more comfortable with that pairing, Thomas and Spawn, than I did Henley and Thomas. So that's why those two are together. And again, the emotional leader of the Americans, at least in my eyes, if I were Keegan Bradley, I want Justin Thomas to anchor my afternoon foursomes. And then I'm not worried about Spawn handling, the big pressure, considering he won the U.S. Open this year. This is the one session that I gave Scotty off, clearly. So, just to be clear about that. And then going into Saturday afternoon 4-ball, our last chance to make a run before singles for each team. I'm going to start with the Europeans with Matt Fitzpatrick and Rory. This team played very well in Rome. In 4-ball, Fitz and McIlroy, 2-1 win against Colin and Xander. And then they lost 1-up to Patrick Cantlay and Wyndham Clark. But they played pretty darn well. So I'm going to trust that Fitzpatrick and Rory will get the job done if I'm Luke Donald. I'll send them out first in Saturday afternoon 4-ball because I'm a little bit more confident in this pairing here. And then for the Americans, I'm going to put Burns and Cantlay together. These two have played together, I think, once in the President's Cup. They won. President's Cups are different than Ryder Cups, sure, but I'm going to put Burns and Cantlay together. Two guys that can go absolutely nuclear. Burns with his putter. Cantlay can get hot generally likes bent, even though these are bent and Poa greens. I do like that combination there. The second group out in Saturday afternoon 4-ball, Hovland and Straka. Again, Straka, to me, limited to 4-ball. So I've put him with Ludwig, and then I've put him with Victor. And then for the Americans, Ben Griffin and Xander. Xander, a little bit of a question mark. Don't know his form, all of that. He hasn't played great this year. Combine him with someone who's played fantastic all year. Ben Griffin has not shied away from the big moment. 2 wins, several top 10s. You know, I know Ben Griffin's in form, and I'll let the veteran, Xander, not necessarily guide him along, but, you know, be that veteran presence for the debutante. Third pairing, if I were the captains for each squad. Third pairing, I'm going to put Bobby Mack out there with John Rahm. Rahm's preferred format is clearly the foursomes, but I do want Rahm out there as much as possible. So give me Bobby Mack and John Rahm in a 4-ball situation, in a best ball, going against Justin Thomas and Cameron Young. I think this group would be dynamic in a best ball situation. You got the emotional leader, you got the hometown guy. Late on a Saturday afternoon, the Americans, you know, either hopefully are charging or you know, pulling away. I think this group will electrify the crowd late on a Saturday. And then to anchor the last point before singles, gotta have it. You know, I want all the momentum to going into singles. I'm going to put the guy that just won the Tour Championship. I'm going to put Tommy Fleetwood in there. And I'll again try to give Rasmus a little bit of some confidence. But we saw Tommy play with Nikolai last year. I'll put him with Rasmus and give the rookie some confidence, saying, I believe in you. I want you to anchor the 4-ball situation, or the 4-ball format with, you know, somebody who's playing really, really good golf right now. So Tommy and Rasmus. You could probably make the argument to probably put Rory and Fitz out there, but I wanted to make a strong showing to start the session with Rory and then anchor it with Tommy. For the Americans, pretty darn simple. Scotty and Bryson. You talk about the 2 probably best players the Americans have. In the final point before singles, you know, either you got to have it or you're trying to build upon your lead if things are going great. You know, Bryson's going to electrify the crowd no matter what. Put him with the best player in the world. These 2 could go absolute nuclear and shoot, you know, 14 birdies. Underdog sucks this week for golf. I don't do much with underdog, Phil. I'm just being honest there. I don't. I'm stick to strictly DraftKings. Yes, you're supposed. You know, you're supposed to shop your lines and all that stuff. I just kind of stick with DraftKings. I don't do much with underdog. But again, to anchor, most electric. I don't know. Both of these groups are quite electric in my mind. But to anchor the Saturday afternoon 4-ball, I want the best player in the world anchor in that session. I'm going to put Scotty out there, teaming with Bryson, a fun group. Crowd's going to be absolutely dynamic following this last anchored group. So that is how I see the first 16 points shaping out if I were the captains. Singles. This is where it gets fun. I did take a little bit of liberty to match up a couple of things that I wanted to see. But, having said that, if I'm each captain, I'm starting singles off like I've tried to do each session. I want to put a strong presence. Get that early point on the board. So to lead off in singles, if I'm Luke Donald, I'm putting Victor out there. Victor, who who has struggled a little bit this year on the PGA Tour, but has been solid in singles, especially in the Ryder Cup. Last year, beating Morikawa handily, 4-3. He tied Morikawa at Whistling Straits in 2021. So I have a lot of confidence if I'm Luke Donald in Victor Hovland and getting that first blue flag on the board in terms of singles. And if I'm Keegan Bradley, starting singles, match play, the last winner of the Dell match play before it stopped being an event on the PGA Tour was Sam Burns. Number one putter on the PGA Tour. Guy can steal points, steal holes out of nowhere with his putter. How awesome would that be to put the number one putter out there, have him just go electric, and set the tone early for the Americans, the final match play champion. So I'm going to put Sam Burns out first for the Americans. Group 2, much along the same lines. I want to keep that momentum, especially if I'm the Americans. I want to keep the crowd into it. Burns hopefully is draining 30-foot putts and making birdies and getting the crowd all wild. I want to keep the crowd in it and engaged as long as possible to keep the pressure on the Europeans. So for the Americans, I'm sending out Bryson. Big Bryson. Keep the crowd into it. Have him drive the first hole in singles. Take a chance at going, very, very low. I want to keep the energy. So sending out Bryson second in singles if I'm Keegan. I'm going to try to match that energy if I'm Luke Donald with a guy that I'm confident won't get rattled by all that energy. Justin Rose has played in several Ryder Cups. The moment's not going to be too big for him. He hasn't been stellar in singles, but he's been acceptable. 2-3-1. It's not great, but it's not horrendous. It's not Matt Fitzpatrick level. So I want to put a guy out there thinking the Americans are going to try to, be very, very emotional, trying to bury us early. I'm going to put a guy out there that I know will handle it, will play his game, and not get rattled. So I'm going to match Justin Rose with Bryson in the third set of singles. In the second set of singles. Third set of singles. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, especially if I'm Keegan. I've got 4 debutantes that I've got to weave through my lineup. Because of that, this is an opportunity where I decided to put a debutant in there, but kept it kind of on theme, keeping the emotions high. I'm going to put the local guy out there. I'm going to put out Cameron Young. He's a little bit of a wild card. We don't know what we're going to get in terms of singles. He did play President's Cup in 2021. But President's Cup's a lot different than Ryder Cup. So I'm going to try and let the energy from Sam Burns, let the energy from Bryson feed into Cameron Young, tee him up third. And for the Europeans, for Luke Donald, I've got a few question marks as well in terms of singles. Matt Fitzpatrick has a very poor record in singles. Surprisingly, Terrell Hatton hasn't been great. Lowry hasn't been great. Straka's only 0-1. So I'm going to try and quote-unquote steal a matchup here. I'm going to put in one of my lesser players, knowing that if I'm Luke Donald, thinking that the Americans are going to try to hit us hard early with these emotional leaders, maybe I'm thinking it's Thomas and Bryson or Scotty and Bryson. Eventually, you're going to run out of players. If I'm Luke Donald, I'm thinking that you're going to run out of players. So I'm going to try and steal one early with Lowry and put Lowry and Young together. Matchup 3. Matchup 4. This is kind of where I'm starting to think, okay, maybe some things haven't gone my way. Maybe if I'm Captain Luke Donald, maybe Sam Burns is draining putts. Bryson's just flat out overpowering Justin Rose. Shane Lowry isn't playing well. I'm going to put out a player that won his match last year. He's only 1-0, but he won. He won convincingly against Wyndham Clark. I'm going to try to, quote, stop the bleeding, if you will, with Bobby Mack. Imagine if Lowry and Rory get matched. I did put them together in Friday afternoon 4-ball. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Again, remember, Phil, I did put, 4 rules on myself. That's why I have so many different types of pairings. But I did put Rory and Lowry together for 4-ball. They have played the Zurich Classic together. So it wouldn't be, completely unprecedented, I would say. But I do think Rory is going to be better suited to be with like Tommy in alternate shot. And he's probably going to work with Matt Fitzpatrick like he did last year in 2023 in 4-ball. So, like I said, if I'm Luke Donald, I'm trying to stop the bleeding here. I don't want to try to give Americans too many points in a row, even though I'm probably going to be. I'm hoping Justin Rose can scratch out a half, but I'm putting him there because I know he'll handle the pressure and stuff. Knowing he's not my strongest singles player, Lowry's clearly not my strongest singles player. I'm gonna try and stop the bleeding with Bobby Mack. And if I'm Keegan, again, with 3 emotional players to start, I've got to weave in some of these unknowns, some of these guys that I don't know how they're going to play in singles. So I'll send out probably the most complete, most well-rounded, top performing debutant in Ben Griffin, and try to keep somewhat of that pressure going. If I'm Keegan, matchup 5 in singles. This is where if I'm Luke Donald, I gotta get Matt Fitzpatrick in there somehow. And I'm a little bit defensive in my thought process. If it's getting late on Sunday and it's really close, I'm going to be really, really worried about Matt Fitzpatrick's 0-3 singles record. So I'm just going to go ahead and get him in here. Let him see a few of his mates tee off and play a little bit. Try to get him calmed down, get him settled. And for the Americans, I'm going to go with the 3rd straight debutante. My thought process is kind of like what I was thinking as Luke Donald in the 4 spot. Here in 5, maybe Victor's overpowering Sam Burns. Sam Burns, if things aren't going my way, Sam Burns isn't making putts. Bryson's kind of hitting it all over the yard, and Rose is, parring him to death. Maybe Cameron Young isn't playing well or whatever. Much like my thought process with Bobby Mack, I want Harris English to kind of be just a settling force. Harris English isn't going to get rattled. He's going to play his game, much like Justin Rose. Going to probably par you to death. English can get a birdie here and there, sure. But I wanted this to be kind of like a stabilizing force, knowing that I still have a couple of unknowns and a couple of shaky players, at least shaky in terms of recent form, still to go if I'm Keegan. So I'm putting Harris English here kind of to settle some things, if you will. Matchup 6 in singles. I'm going to put Rasmus out there. Yeah, look, quite a bit of an unknown. Got to put him in somewhere. I'll put him right smack dab in the middle of my lineup. I don't want him to have the pressure of going out early. I don't want him to have the pressure of, if the Ryder Cup's on the line. So I'll put him right in the middle of the lineup. And Russell Henley, kind of the same thought process, even though he's played in President's Cups before. A guy that's just gonna kind of play his game, and if I'm Keegan, hopefully we'll steal a point. But I gotta mix him in somewhere. Then we're gonna start getting into the back half of the singles. Matchup 7. Much like I did with the thought process behind Bobby Mack. If things aren't going well for me, if I'm Luke Donald, I got to stop the bleeding here. Maybe Lowry's didn't play well. Rose, goes up against an emotional, strong player from USA and maybe just kind of gets run over. I did just put Fitzpatrick and Højgaard back to back. Not with a lot of confidence. So I got to make sure I have someone strong in this spot. I'm going to put John Rahm out 7th. Stop the bleeding potentially here. Same thought process for the Americans. Maybe things aren't going well. Bryson's hitting it all over the yard. Henley is just not able to play Bethpage Black, by himself or with his own ball. I'm going to depend on Patrick Cantlay, even though he's got a little bit of some issue. He hadn't played great this season, but Cantlay's undefeated in singles. He's 2-0. So, kind of that stopper, if you will, in that regard, just in case things aren't going well singles wise. Good evening, Pete. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Hopefully you're ready for the Ryder Cup. You're catching me at the very, very end of the show where I'm going through if I'm Captain Luke Donald, if I'm Captain Keegan Bradley, how I would set my lineups. I did mandate 4 different rules on me. You can see those there. So that's why, I have some pretty odd pairings in here. But I use I put these 4 rules on myself. But good to see you in chat. Very much appreciated. Hopefully you're ready to watch some Ryder Cup in the morning. Match 8 in singles, getting down to the nitty gritty here. Things are probably pretty tight. I'm going to put somebody who I know isn't going to be flustered by the raucous crowd. It's so tough to bet against Uncle Luke. He pressed all the right buttons in Rome. We'll see how he does in an away game. But I'm going to put Tyrrell Hatton out there 8th. Try to get, some late blue flags on the board if I'm Luke Donald. And this is where I put J.J. Spawn. Again, J.J. Spawn, the U.S. Open winner. I would like to have some confidence that he's not going to get flustered by the moment, having won the U.S. Open this year, but you got to put him in somewhere, and I don't like the idea of Spawn having to depend on Spawn late in Sunday if things are close. So this is where I got to put JJ in the lineup based on everything else, with my mindset throughout the rest of this. Match 9 in singles, Ludwig. Again, getting down to the nitty gritty. I want my best players out there on the course. I'm going to put Ludwig out 9th, and you got to depend on Xander. I know he hadn't been great this year, but Xander is one of the leaders of the American squad. You got to depend on him. I'm going to put Xander out there late in the day on Sunday, hoping that he either pulls through with a crucial point, or keeps Europe in check, however you want to phrase that. But you got to depend on him, even though he hadn't been great lately. Match 10, Sepp. I know this seems a little bit odd, but I didn't want to put 3 essentially what I would think pretty good chances of losses together between Rose and Lowry, Fitz and Højgaard. I put Straka here. Straka had an amazing year. He really did. And playing his own ball, I think, might help him, especially in a singles format. Now, he did lose last year to Justin Thomas 2-up, which means he was only 1 down on 18, and Thomas won on the 18th in Rome. But as we'll see with Justin Thomas, that really isn't that, terrible of a thing, because Justin Thomas is undefeated in singles. So I'm going to let Sepp Straka come in late in the day. Let him try and earn a valuable point late in the day. Like I was thinking with Luke Donald, like I've been thinking with Cantlay and Xander, you're going to have to depend on your veterans, especially if the Ryder Cup is close. Give me Colin. Give me Colin. 2-time, 3-time major champion. Maybe it's 2-time. X amount of time of major champion. You're going to have to depend on your veterans. So I'll put Colin out there in match 10. Penultimate group. Match 11. Tommy just got through winning the Tour Championship. Playing great right now. Veteran of several Ryder Cups now. Has been okay in singles. 1-1-1. Beat Ricky in Rome. Tied Spieth at Whistling Straits. Now, Mollywood. Sorry, it's just off your screen. Mollywood year. He got trounced. But that was kind of, the start of Finau being really, really good. So, Tommy's had some mixed success in singles, but I'm going to trust the current form. Penultimate group, gotta have it. Maybe it clinches the point. Maybe it secures the point to depend on, the last player, the anchor. Give me Tommy. Much the same thought process for the U.S. Justin Thomas, 3-0 in Ryder Cup singles matches. If I have to have a point to make sure it goes the full length, give me JT. And then I think the matchup everybody kind of wants to see, other than maybe against him, if the Ryder Cup's on the line, if it's 13.5 to 13.5, you got to have the point to win the Ryder Cup. Who are you going to trust? Pretty simple. Rory versus Scotty. Again, I'm a little bit defensive in nature, thinking that I want my best player mattering if the score is tied 13.5 to 13.5. That was my mindset, putting these two last in Sunday singles. Obviously, score would dictate more than that. If the Americans are ahead, maybe you want Scotty playing earlier to try to secure that last point. Vice versa for Rory and the Europeans. But my mindset, as I made the Sunday singles lineup, the score is 13.5 to 13.5 after all of these matches. If I need 1 point to win the Ryder Cup, who do I trust? If I'm Luke Donald, I trust Rory. If I'm Keegan Bradley, I trust Scotty. So that's how I would have put together the lineups if I was captaining each team. Granted, with some, mandates thrown in there to make it a little interesting, a little bit more fun, put some different names together. We'll wrap up the show this evening with the pick selection, the exhibition between Gabe and I. This isn't going to count towards the 2025 Picks Challenge. I have officially won that. But just for some fun, him and I decided to do the Picks Challenge. I'm going to get booed in chat. I accept that. I don't see how USA wins. I put this in the write-up with... I shouldn't say that. I know how the Americans win. I just don't see it. I put in my write-up over on Gabe's social media page. The Europeans are a well-oiled machine. They're cohesive. They've got 11 of the same 12 back from Rome. Yes, it's a road game, but they've already got their built-in pairings. Luke Donald pressed all the right buttons at Rome, or in Rome. I'm going to take Europe to win 15-13. Now, having said that, I also picked the Europeans to win at Whistling Straits, and we all saw how that panned out. I'll turn on the camera just for a second. We all know how that panned out. I was an idiot. So, I even put it in the write-up. What do I know? Probably nothing. But I am going to pick the Europeans to win, and maybe I jinx them and the Americans win. Clearly, I have a rooting interest in the Americans being American, but as an analyst, I see the Europeans winning. Gabe's going to take the U.S. He admitted that early on in the week he thought the Americans were going to win pretty handily. As he started digging into the numbers, he kind of liked the Europeans a little bit more. He's going to take Americans 15.5 to 12.5. Our favorite plays. Neither of us are playing DFS, but we tried to be sincere in our effort to give you our most logical choice if we were going to play DFS. My favorite play would be Bobby Mack. He has the built-in partnership with Justin Rose. He played very well in 4-ball in Rome, and we see that he is matched up, or he at least is playing the Friday morning foursomes. So with his mid-price, thinking he's probably going to get 4 sessions, I like that value. And clearly thinking the Europeans are going to win, I think he's going to get his fair share of points. Gabe's going to take Patrick Cantlay. Again, thinking that he's going to play the majority of the sessions. Likes his price. He likes the value there. Biggest letdown. Letdown's a little bit subjective, but guy or player that is dependent on and doesn't come through, maybe not necessarily goes pointless, but really underperforms. I'm going to take Colin Morikawa. I've got a lot of concerns with Morikawa. His putter is always shaky. He's not long, and Bethpage Black is a big yard. I'm wary of Colin. Gabe is not confident in John Rahm. Liv, all of that. John Rahm wasn't overly spectacular in Rome, so he's going to take John Rahm as biggest letdown. Mad Scientist play. I wanted to take Cameron Young, but I'm going to go Justin Rose. I'm going to go bottom of the barrel. Again, built-in partner with Bobby Mack in 4-ball. I was thinking he might get a foursomes run as well, considering how well he has played in foursomes in his career in the Ryder Cup. But with his cheap price, you're wanting him to get a 1.5 or 2, and I think it'd be worth it, which I think he can easily do. And then Gabe's going to take Harris English as his Mad Scientist play. Top point scorer, I had to make it top point scorer instead of top Euro and top American, just to try to fit it on the screen there. I'm going to take Rory as top point scorer. It's a boring pick, I understand that, but I'm pretty confident Rory's going to play all 5 sessions. I like Rory's chances of winning the majority of his matches, particularly tomorrow against English and Morikawa, I believe. I think Rory's heavily favored in that matchup. So there's a point, I think. Rory also played very, very well in 4-ball with Matt Fitzpatrick. So I like Rory's chances to accrue a lot of points this week. And Gabe's going to go with Tommy Fleetwood. Despite picking the U.S. to win, he also is going to take a European to be the top point scorer in Tommy, who's been playing very, very well lately. And then top debutant. I had a few options here. I could have gone Cam Young. Could have gone... I wasn't going to go Rasmus Højgaard. I think Rasmus might struggle. Only playing 3 sessions. Wasn't terribly confident about Spawn and how he was going to match up with certain players. So I'm going to take Russell Henley, because I knew, or at least I had a very strong inclination, that Russell Henley was going to play with Scottie Scheffler in foursomes. And in fact, they're together tomorrow. Anytime you have Scottie as a partner, that's a big boost to you, even if you aren't, the headliner of that group. So I think Russell Henley's going to get a big boost from Scottie, and I'll take Russell Henley as top debutant. Gabe's going to go with Ben Griffin, who's played very, very well. So that's a look at Gabe's and my selections, or at least most of them. We had 10 total selections, and it's over on his social media page. His handle is right there on your screen under his picture. That's a few of our selections. I want to thank Gabe, Matt, Phil, and P for jumping into chat. Very, very much appreciated. Let me bring us back to this. Very much appreciated that you all jump into chat. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics. Having a little bit of fun in this case with the Ryder Cup. Doing some different thought exercises. But mostly doing some golf analytics. Trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. So for all of the wagers that you have made this week for the Ryder Cup, for all the DFS contests you play this week for the Ryder Cup, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.